Sometimes you want the value that's displayed in a cell to depend on a condition that's happening somewhere else. This is where you use a conditional statement, and it's a statement that you can test. And the way it works is that you output one result if that statement is true, and you output a different result if that statement is false. And to do this, you use the if function. And the if function gets 3 arguments. The first argument is a statement that you test. For example, you might say the content of cell C6 is greater than 500. Well, when you make that statement, or when you have that condition, well, there's 2 possibilities. Either it's true or it's false. So the if function will output one value if that statement is true, and it'll output another value if that statement is false. So the general syntax of the if function is, say, equals if, and then you make the statement, and then you have the value of true, and then you have the value of false. And you notice that these 3 arguments are separated with commas. And that's really all there is to it. So let's take a look. What we have here in this sheet is people selling stuff. And we have here our salespeople, we have here what they're selling, and the commission rate. What we're going to do is we're going to say if the person sold at least $500, they're going to get a commission rate of 10%. If they sold less than $500, they will get a commission rate of 5%. And over here, you see we have a little table. Now, once we stuff that commission rate in column C, we go to column D, and the formula is already done for you. We're simply going to multiply the sale amount times the rate, and then we have the dollar amount of the commission. So this will be a little more clear once we start doing it. So let's go into cell C6, and we'll say equals if, open up the parenthesis, and now we put in the first argument. The argument is the content of B6 is greater than or equal to 500. So that's it. Did the person sell at least 500 or not? That's true or false. So we put in a comma. That's the end of the first argument. So the second argument is, what do we want the value of C6 to be if that condition is true? Well, if that condition is true, it means they sold at least $500. They get the higher commission rate. So we click that 10%. Now we're going to autofill this down, so we want to make sure this is an absolute reference. So press the F4 key. That inserts the dollar signs, makes it an absolute reference. So that's what we output if true. Put in a comma. Now we put in the third and last argument. If that condition is false, it means they did not sell at least $500. They sold under $500, so they get the lower commission rate of 5%. So just click over here in cell J3, that's the lower commission rate. Again, press the F4 key on your keyboard to make that an absolute reference. And if you're not familiar with absolute references, you might want to go back and watch the movie where we talk about it. And that's it. End the parenthesis, hold Control and press Enter, and there we can see it's 10%. Now put your mouse pointer on that little dot in the lower right corner. When the mouse pointer becomes that crosshair, double click, and we fill down to the bottom, and look at that. And you can eyeball it. So here's someone who sold about $600 and they got 10%. Here's someone who sold under $500, they got 5%, and now we can see, yes indeed, 10% of $509 is $50.90. So that works. Now that's great, but wait, there's more, because a conditional statement, you can use the if function to output text as well as a number. So let's do that here. Let's go into cell E6 and type equals if, open up the parenthesis, and the condition is going to be the same. So we're going to say is that amount there, the sale amount, is that greater than or equal to 500, comma. Now, if it's true, we want to output a comment. So open up your double quotation marks, and we'll type in great job, exclamation mark. That's the end of the comment. So close the quotation mark. That's now the end of that argument. Type in a comma. Now remember, this is not English, this is Excel. So the comma has to go outside the quotation mark, not inside the quotation mark. So if that condition is false, put in another double quotation mark, and we'll say, better luck next time, and close the quote, close the parenthesis, press Control Enter, and again, put your mouse pointer on that autofill handle. When the mouse pointer becomes a crosshair, double click, and now we have the appropriate comment for each one. So the if function, conditional statements are great, so you can always have the value of a cell depend on something else that's happening in the worksheet or even in another worksheet.